All right, everyone, we should be live. Let's make sure that's actually the case over on Rumble, of course. Yeah, I do see chat is working again. Always a good thing. Marcus Z, 1967. Morning all, clank. Coldy Lockless says morning. Gary Baxter 01 says clank as well. And hey, Marcus. Hey, Cold Lockless. Little bit of a conversation going there. We'll be talking about lots of news today. The new ad put out by Trump's MAGA War Room and its tie-in to tax reform. I see a lot of shenanigans from both DeSantis fans and the legacy media. When those two sync up with one another, I'm like, well, slightly telling now, isn't it? We're going to be talking about Biden and his huge gaffe, actually, at the G7 summit with the Quad reference. I remarked upon that briefly this morning, but it definitely warrants its own inclusion. Michaela Cavanaugh, no relation, by the way, to Brett Kavanaugh. It's a C instead of a K. And her meltdown in Nebraska over the trans issue there. Rather sad. She's got the problem glasses and all, though, so we shouldn't be necessarily that surprised at what unfolded there. Lots of crazy shit going on. We've got Spaz Out. Jesus, this early. Yeah, this is the normal time. Yeah, more or less, give or take an hour or so. When you've got a child, you have to make compromises with regards to your work schedule. Got a double edit done this morning, too. I'm almost done with the 9th of the 10 edited works that I planned for this year, actually, which is the Botanica Materia Medica. That's a list of various species, botanical species, and their usage within medicine, according to the mid-19th century. So Nick Ray, 47 on Rumble. Morning from Ohio, Sticks. You're from where Andy Six is from. Haha. I see a lot of clanking going on right now. Anyway, I'm fairly caffeinated. I've still got some more to plow through. Gotta get more later. Leftover chili tonight. By the way, I am proud to report that our daughter, who's not much more than a year old, does like my chili. Now, if you smush it up, so she can actually eat it safely. You can't give her the pieces of celery, of course, as they're too chewy. She doesn't mind the chili powder, cayenne, chili flakes, or the Tabasco sauce that's present in it. Apparently, she has more spice tolerance than I had as a kid. It wasn't until I was in my 20s that I ever tried a jalapeno. That was a fun day. I was suffering for a little bit, but then from then on, I could take more spiciness. Anaheim peppers are the greatest. So we'll be eating more spicy foods, I believe, in the future. Also masala. She liked that as well when I fed her little bits of tomatoey masala. It was no problem. Normally, little kids, they can't handle any spiciness at all. I guess she's truly a pure Warwick. She's my dad's genes flowing through my blood have affected her. I'm very proud. Anyway, we're going to start off with the first news of the day, and this is the admittedly slightly cringy ad that Donald Trump and his people have put out from MAGA Incorporated War Room. I don't know if this is exactly a direct subsidiary of some PAC working for Trump or whether this is more independent. Admittedly, the video could have gone on better. As I explained in Occult Memetics, you want things to be catchy. You want things to be viral. It comes close, but it doesn't quite hit that mark. It could have been retooled a little bit better. That being said, it's specifically about the tax debate. Ron DeSantis has optioned the concept of replacing the federal income tax. Well, I'm in favor of that, by the way. I have no problem with getting rid of that bullshit. In favor of, unfortunately, a national sales tax. And as I explained this morning in my video on the topic, that's not the way to do it. You would have a 1-year lapse in which people are paying higher prices before the tax relief kicks in. That could sink people in the middle class that are on the edge due to Bidenflation. It would presumptively eliminate write-offs for people who are self-employed, which would be a big problem. You're a freelancer, you buy your own equipment, and then you go out to the job, you get your own truck, you got your own tools or something, you do plumbing, you do electrical work, you'd be fucked. Because everything that you have to buy costs more, but you're not even getting, you already potentially weren't paying much in taxes. You've saved some money, but then you have to pay 30-40% more for all the things you get. By the way, and this is something that I did not point out in the morning video with regards to a flat national sales tax replacing the federal income tax. Again, getting rid of a federal income tax, I support, or at least tempering it greatly. And we'll get into the Trump is coming from the left on the issue bullshit as well separately. Here's the problem. Think about food chains. Think about biology, actually. When you have mercury, for example, in an aquatic system, the bottom feeders grab the mercury up. The lower level carnivores eat them, and they bioaccumulate more mercury in their flesh than the bottom feeders. The top level carnivores then eat them, and the same thing operates again, effectively by orders of magnitude. The problem with the national sales tax is basic goods would get a basic sales tax. So wheat, for example, apples, and so forth. What about all of the other composite goods that are required to make more complex materials with those? So the wheat turns into bread, and the bread turns into croutons, and the croutons turn into the stuffing mix for your Thanksgiving turkey. How many iterations of the sales tax has every component of that product been gone through if you have a national sales tax? 4 of them. So your Thanksgiving stuffing will probably cost more than the fucking turkey. At least the turkey is only taxed once, while the stuffing is taxed 4 times. The wheat is taxed with the national sales tax. The processor has bought from the farmers. There's a sales tax involved, potentially. They then refine it. They turn it into meal. They turn it into flour. They make bread. The bread is then sold and parsed apart and turned into the croutons. And the croutons are then boxed up and included with your Thanksgiving turkey. This would be terrible for anyone that is involved with the following categories of people. Number 1, the poor. The poor who get money back would no longer get it, and they'd be paying more for goods and services. It would cripple them. The poor in the United States would completely fall through. Tens of millions of people would be fucked under a national sales tax plan. Now, you could do phasing. You could level it in some way. That would require a national ID, presumptively. There are ways around it, but most of them violate the right to privacy or don't make any real sense having that sort of subsidy. The working class, especially blue-collar workers and the lower middle class in the same arena, freelancers especially, several millions of people, would be goddamn completely obliterated. Every self-employed plumber, electrical worker, architect, brick mason, small businesses, they would all be negatively impacted by this change. What Ron DeSantis is pushing here sounds good on paper. I know it's libertarian bait, actually. I would benefit under such a plan. Of course, I'm an expat. I don't have to worry about if the price of U.S. goods rises because I'm mainly buying goods from the European Union. It would be great for me because if I'm not paying that $20,000+ in federal income tax, and I don't have to worry about the uptick in U.S. prices for the most part, occasionally it might affect me in some marginal way. I'd get off like a bandit, but I still oppose it. And that's because it would be harmful to my fellow American citizens. For the vast majority of people, this plan makes absolutely no sense. Okay, you've released the tax burden on the middle class. They paid $3,000, $4,000 last year. Now they pay $0. But for 12 goddamn months upon implementation, while they're saving that money at the end of the year, they're also paying massively more for every good that they get. And that goes up the food chain from basic goods that have a broad sales tax. They can probably still afford those. Let's say that I want to make a can of soup. Here's the ultimate example. I'm working for a company, a cannery. We make soup. Now, all we make is tomato soup. The tomatoes are now more taxed. The herbs are now more taxed. The salt that I put in is now more taxed. The pepper is more taxed. The metal that's used for the can is more taxed. The energy that's used to actually do the canning is more taxed. The fuel consumption on my trucks to put the product out are more taxed. How much more is that can of soup going to cost? And this is just a basic can of soup. It could be fucking Campbell's tomato. This is something that tends to be served by people who are in the working class or maybe the lower middle class, people who are poor. Well, it's massively more expensive now, and they're also not getting any money back because there's no longer any federal tax. It doesn't exist anymore. They are fucked. Tens of millions of poor people, millions of entrepreneurs in working class, as well as some of the marginal working class, I suppose, lower middle class. People in the middle class who right now are on the edge because of Bidenflation. This would make inflation, by the way, far worse. It's a terrible, terrible idea. Now, I see some people attacking Trump on this and saying, well, Donald Trump should not be complaining about the concept of the fair tax system. Donald Trump is attacking Ron DeSantis from the left. Please show me where Donald Trump has optioned the concept of raising taxes broadly on the U.S. population. He's not attacking him from the left. He's attacking him from the right. They've both got concepts with regards to lowering taxation. In one field, you've got Ron DeSantis saying, no, federal income tax shouldn't exist at all. We'll replace it with a national sales tax, a fair tax, as they label it. With Donald Trump, we've seen what he's done before. His proposal is fundamentally the same. It's a doubling down on the tax relief that he already gave people. Now, here's why I prefer Trump. Number one, it's plausible, the tax relief that he wants to give. It's passable, number two, as opposed to what Ron DeSantis wants here. I don't think that Congress would actually pass a national sales tax completely off-riding the federal income tax code. While it would be great to get rid of the federal income tax, I support that. I side with DeSantis on the basic premise. It doesn't need to be replaced with anything. There shouldn't be so many. There should be far less taxes on literally everyone. We should be having a conversation over how to shrink the government. DeSantis is saying we can make up the same amount of money with a different form of tax. So actually, he's the one arguing from the left. No, don't worry. There won't be any lost revenue. The tax level is the same. We've just switched the modus operandi of how the taxation works from this graduated federal tax system to a national sales tax. Donald Trump is the one that's arguing from the right on this particular issue by wanting to lower all taxes and at least maintain, in the business tax sense, the tax relief he's already given, something that Biden is fighting tooth and nail to reverse because he hates the American people. If anything, Donald Trump is the one that's on the right on this issue. I realize that the legacy media and some of the simps out there are arguing opposite this. It'd be wonderful to debate some of them on it because it's so clear-cut, it's so fucking obvious. Donald Trump is in the right on this issue. If you want to graduate out the federal tax system, that's perfectly fine with me. I have no problem with that. Introducing a national sales tax, especially if you did so instantaneously as opposed to in a very long-term graduated manner, would crush the economy. It would cause a Great Depression. Spending would fall like a rock. The poor would be out on the streets. The working class would become the poor. The lower middle class would barely be faring better than the lower working class currently is. The solid middle class would have to take out more debt in order to buy groceries. The cost of goods would soar sight unseen. It would be impossible to import most basic goods to other countries. It would cripple the economy. But there are people out there that are taken in hook, line, and sinker by the basic premise of simply doing away with the federal tax system to the point where they're like, yeah, we can create another Great Depression, screwing half the population in the process just to own the system. That's right wing. That's proper. Donald Trump is weak on this issue. No. This particular ad is fairly weak, admittedly so. The Trump campaign, I'll give him a mercy D on the actual ad itself because the jingle that you're using normally is very catchy, but I didn't consider it catchy in your ad. You need to improve your format. It would be wonderful to give them advice on how to do this from the perspective of someone that understands such things. I could have done better my fucking self with nothing more than a laptop computer. That being said, the basic premise is actually very apt. Ron DeSantis' proposed tax plan is a goddamn terrible idea. It would not work. Thankfully, it would not pass if he proposed it. So if he becomes the president of the United States, it's DOA. It's not going to actually happen. No reasonable person, even most Republicans probably wouldn't vote for it. Not because it's too draconian a change. Fuck that. It's perfectly fine to have a draconian change once in a while. It's a change that doesn't make any fucking sense. You'd end up with tens of millions of extra homeless people. That's what you would have under a national sales tax system. Mo in the Deep End. Thanks to your push to learn a new skill, I started a YouTube channel, Mo in the Deep End. I react to trials as a layperson, way out of my comfy zone. Good on you. It's excellent to do anything new. Never stagnate. Do something new once in a while. Grow a new crop, learn a new skill. Do something that takes you out of your comfort zone. That's the point. That's the good part. King of Biltong, good morning from Antons in Roanoke, Texas. Hashtag Clank Nation. Yummy, yummy. So yeah, as far as the tax struggle between Trump and DeSantis, again, I'm solidly Team Trump. And I say this as someone who would benefit greatly as an expat under DeSantis' plan. Sales tax wouldn't affect me. Federal income tax all of a sudden doesn't affect me either because it's no longer in existence. Well, then I pay a flat rate to the state of Vermont for being a resident there effectively for voting purposes. Otherwise, as far as U.S. taxes are concerned, I don't pay any. Oh, the plan would be great for me. It would save me, again, 15, 20K a year or something on that order. That's a lot of goddamn money. That's more than some part-time workers fucking make in the year. Under Bidenomics, a lot of them have 3 fucking part-time shifts in order to buy ramen noodle soup. Unfortunately, under the tax plan, they wouldn't be able to buy the ramen noodle soup. And I would love for someone to challenge him on, and Trump should do this. Trump could torpedo DeSantis tomorrow if he just challenged him on one thing. Will this national sales tax apply to firearms, bullets, and firearm accessories? Somebody get that to Donald Trump. He can destroy DeSantis tomorrow just as easily. Will it apply to Bibles sold in a Christian bookstore? Will it apply to any other the goodies that right-wingers typically want? By the way, will it apply to marijuana sales? Of course it would. Although DeSantis probably wants them high, that's the only way that they would support such a fucking proposal. Rudolph Bond, hi Sticks, thanks for the daily entertaining videos and live streams. Taking my board exam for occupational therapy in a few weeks. Wish me luck. Good luck, my dude. Do well. Make me proud, my son. Alarian Horizon, DeSantis simps are leftoid levels of annoying. No, I wouldn't put him at that level. I can understand why some people would dislike Trump, but like MAGA, like populism. I can understand that because Trump can be acerbic. By all accounts, by the people around him, he can be difficult to work with, and he is fickle. He can be a fickle man. Sometimes he goes against the advice of his attorneys, for example. I totally understand that. And there are some people that simply think he's too old and or he can't win because of indictment or whatever. I disagree with them, but I can understand the premise. But when the alternative is someone who is offering a tax plan that would literally cripple the U.S. economy and drive potentially 10, 15% of the population into perpetual unemployment and homelessness, my God, that's a terrible idea. Why don't you just remove the federal tax system and pledge that you're going to cut the bureaus with a machete? Well, you could do that too. No, we don't need half the bureaus anyway, and then just adjust taxes accordingly, let the private market flourish. That's the proper way to do things. It's also the more right-wing / libertarian way to do things. What DeSantis is proposing is we're going to make the same amount of money. This tax level is exactly the same. We're just shifting how we make it. Well, then that's not right-wing. That's, fence riding, basically. The Atlas Report. Give me clank. Clank me. Clank now. Me a clank needing a lot now. So do. Thank you. Thank you. That's a lot of clank. Alamandorius. What are the deductions that Trump limited that were unlimited previously and only the rich could really use? The SALT deductions, I believe, is what you're talking about. I think Biden made them unlimited again. I can't remember. Yes, those are SALT deductions. If you're in a high-tax state, you can get a deduction because you're already paying more in state taxes. Above a certain threshold, you have to be at a certain income level and deduct that against federal. It only applies to people who are making a significant amount of money. The only people that are positively affected that should be by that are small business owners. On that, the SALT deduction being limitless makes sense. Most of the people using it, though, they're blue state millionaires. They're not small business owners at all. They're not just rich on paper. Beefy King, do you know you're not live on BitChute? Yeah, BitChute does not have live streaming. Once they get it, I'll be live there as well. Nick Ray again. Been wondering for years, who's Andy Six, or however you spell it? Never heard of him other than from you. Andy Biersack, lead singer of the Black Veil Brides. It is a long-term meme on 4chan about eating his poo, actually. A machete. I can't wait to cut down the tax system. Yeah, exactly. Trump gave me huge tax relief. He gave me a write-off of up to, 20% on the basic federal income tax because I pay the self-employment penalty. Ron DeSantis is offering me far more. Again, if I were just a selfish grifter, I would go with Ron DeSantis right now and beg him to fucking be the next president, because if he imposed such a thing, even though it crippled the economy, I would pay a lot less. It would definitely affect me in a positive manner. I'd be taking home again 15, 20,000 more per year under his tax plan. With Trump, though, you don't collapse the economy. People actually have the money to send super chats and buy my books. I think it's even Stevens here, and I'd rather not other people suffer. So I'm going to be supporting Trump and his tax proposal, which is, hey, I'm going to double down on the tax relief I already gave you. We're going to go further. Business tax levels probably remain the same, but the income bracket's lower. Maybe there's another offset, maybe a redoubling of the tax credit for having children or something like that. Those are great ideas. The less the federal government has, the better. There should be a cap on state income taxes too. And on property taxes, by the way, they shouldn't exist at all. For primary dwellings, there shouldn't be any property tax up to some arbitrary number. People have a right to have a fucking property they can really call their own and don't have to pay rent to the government on. Robot trucker, taxes should be increased on the rich to decrease taxes on the poor and middle class. Disagreed. I think the bureaucracy should be shrunk and the rich should pay about the same and the poor and middle class should pay less. I would point out the poor don't pay any income taxes currently, but they shouldn't even have to wait for their return. They should just eliminate the payroll tax. Give them their fucking money. They're working hard. Give them their money. Let them spend it. That'll stimulate the economy. Arnold Schwarzenegger, I wish I had arms like sticks, huge pythons. Get to the chopper. Sigil Stone, DeSantis showing his true colors again by falling in with a plan to tax the citizen into the ground before daring to consider gasp. Tariffs on international trade. The globalism must flow. Yeah, go after China. Repatriate a little bit of that money and make up some of the difference. Tom Pollen, 787. Sticks, a national sales tax would not tax goods until they reach the consumer. Tax-exempt forms would still exist and work the same way they do now. Figured you'd know this. Sounds like a lot more bureaucracy in that paperwork, number one, and something that doesn't trickle down to small business owners once again. Okay, you exempt the corporation that's buying the basic product to process it from the internal tariff. That's fine. What about Ma and Pa Incorporated? What about if I do home gardening, I do home canning, etc. I got a little farm or something and I sell it on the side of the road. Am I exempt? Of course fucking not. You're not going to exempt me. Not unless I hire a high-powered lawyer that I can't afford to file the paperwork so that I can get the exemption. And that's the whole problem. It would crush private industry. It would lead to more monopolization and more poverty. That's the only thing that it would cause. The Patriot Cairo. Students are instructed at Colorado University to not refer to any student as he or she unless instructed to. Why send kids to college to be dumb? They're the ones paying for it, Oh, well. Gnarly66, Sticks, if you like metal, then check out my band Hollower. I like metal. Journey Trials and Joy. How do you think the voting works after all the things the FBI has done? We have a shadow government, and until people clean house, what good is voting? Well, if you don't vote, you're effectively admitting defeat and saying, well, we've already lost. So I'm going to continue being the naive optimist, and I will be voting. Swamp Donkey 69420. We should have a flat tax, say 15% cap on the maximum deductions, like 7.5% cap. Any income earned after 45 hours of work under $250K a year would also be tax-free. Such a system could work. I would modify it beyond what you're saying. I would keep the flat tax lower, and it would be slightly graduated because that just makes fiscal sense. Be tied in with business taxes. Yes, deductions should be capped, especially at the higher income levels, because not necessary beyond that. Here's the thing, though. We can simply slash apart a couple of the bureaus and save a shit ton of money, lower everyone else's taxes accordingly, and call it a fucking day. We're talking about a significant amount of money. We don't need to completely overhaul the tax system. What we need to do is reform it. There will be taxes. Some ANCAPs out there argue that all taxes are theft. Okay, maybe so, but they are going to exist. It's not pragmatic to expect that they won't. A fully voluntary society eventually would run afoul of pragmatism and it would institute the same thing. But you can severely limit those taxes and make sure that the state actually functions in a proper manner. Eric McMullen, creamy and steamy, fresh and dreamy, fresh from his asshole. Next news story, shock, Biden told the leaders of G7 that he convinced Australia, Japan, and India to form an organization called the Quad. Prime Minister Kishida had to remind him that Trump actually put the organization together. Oops. Now, this is half true. Joe Biden had literally nothing to do with the establishment of the Quad. The idea is that these four countries form a collective as mainly an economic and diplomatic counter to China. By the way, an attempt to pull India out of BRICS. A very good idea. Without India, BRICS is basically a dead fish. But it was actually Shinzo Abe back in the 2000s that developed the concept of the Quad. It fell through after a couple of years. It became defunct. Trump revived it. When everyone else had given up on the concept, Donald Trump went in diplomatically, talked to Shinzo Abe, talked to Modi, and got it reformed, the Quad. By the way, Papua New Guinea is now in the Western sphere as of yesterday. For what very little it's worth. Can anyone even name what's exported by Papua New Guinea? Mangoes or papayas or something? All I know is that there's some city there where little boys are prostituted or some sick shit like that. So, yeah, wonderful. We'll be defending them. I don't think they'll be able to defend us much. Anyway, Donald Trump is the one that revived that. It had absolutely nothing to do with Joe Biden. He's link in the description. Watch this for yourself. He actually has the audacity or the dementia, and we're not 100% sure which one it is in this case, to claim that he's the one that reformed the Quad, but he didn't. He had literally nothing to do with it. He didn't utter one fucking word about it. He had nothing to do diplomatically with the establishment of this group. He wasn't in any meaningful position to do so the first time around. He was the fucking VP, and nobody cares what the VP does. And then the second time around, the president was Donald Trump. Joe Biden was just biding his time. Wink, wink, pun intended. Biden his time and selling crack to his son. So, yeah, very, very interesting. Again, I don't know whether it's dementia in this case or not. It could just be, hey, this sounds good. My speech writers are fucking stupid, so I'm just going to say what's on the teleprompter and claim a great diplomatic victory. Oh, wait, it was actually Donald's diplomatic victory. When's he going to take credit for the Abraham Accords? When's he going to take credit for the rapprochement in North Korea? I half expect that at some point he will. Like, he'll go to Seoul in South Korea, and he'll start talking about how he was the first president to cross over the DMZ or something like that. And nobody will know whether he's simply having a senior moment or whether he actually means it and he's just being a liar. That's the problem with Biden. I mean, he's so obviously demented that you don't even know whether he's just straight out lying or whether he doesn't realize he's telling a fib sometimes. Matthew Hammond, a book, The Fair Tax, explains how a sales tax would replace business tax and income. The tax at the time would have been only a 3% increase in prices. The only non-starter for me is the 16th Amendment. Yeah, well, that's 3% is not what Ron DeSantis is apparently proposing. It is much higher than that. And that's a problem. By the way, to Chris Mason, yes, I made a video on the Netflix Cleopatra series episode some days ago. You can go back through the catalog and you'll see that. I can't remember whether I made that a new tech exclusive or not. You may have to check Rumble, BitChute, Odyssey, or Minds. Robot Trucker, have you ever watched The Cabinet of Dr. Caligari? I've watched part of it, actually, the old silent film. By the way, a good song, actually based on that. If you look up the Cabinet of, what the fuck is the band's name? I can't quite remember. It was a cold wave band back in the 80s. They also had another song. They only made 2 singles, I think, called The Evil of His Kiss or The Evil of His Hiss. It's not 100% sure which one is the actual title. I've never seen the actual album cover. Colonel Quayle, DeSantis beats Trump by 24 points. Say I didn't tell you. Yeah, I don't think that's going to be happening, considering the 36-point gap in Trump's favor at this moment. I think Trump will be the nominee. What happens in the general is partially contingent on how much the Uniparty fucks around. It's contingent on McConnell and people like that. I mean, McConnell is on death's doorstep, supposedly, so he might not be an issue by then. Ozzy's Robots, morning. Why hasn't a state offered no property tax in their constitution for a second home? People would flee there. It would be a boom like the gold rush. Yeah, assuming the state had good weather, of course. The Patriot Cairo, why does Hollywood have an obsession with race? Well, they always have. Back in the old days, a black actor couldn't get a role unless it was Sambo or Mammy or something like that. So there's a sympathization involved there. My thing is that Disney and some other companies have a real problem with redheads. Those are the ones they most commonly erase. Cleopatra is like a one-off, but Ariel and all of the others, they always seem to be, they always get erased. Doc Holliday. Why should we expect Republicans to step up their game in elections with Ronna McDaniel as the chair of the RNC? Just think she's the least bad of the three. Kevin McCarthy and Mitch McConnell's the worst. Kevin McCarthy is monkey in the middle on that one. I don't expect great things from the Republicans. That's why I'm not a member of the Republican Party. I prefer to win. But we'll see what happens. We could be in a major recession at the time of the election. It might be beyond the power of honk honk to actually deny Trump the election simply because there's no plausible way to explain to the public why he would lose. That could very well happen. You can expect some more push polling, by the way, over the subsequent year. Next news story, watch. Senator Michaela Cavanaugh chants on the floor of the legislature for more than 2 minutes. And by chant, you mean rant incoherently. We love trans people here. You belong. What did she say? I can't even remember exactly what she said. She's got the problem glasses. She's a leftoid. She's part of the Nebraska state legislature. And of course, they pushed a bill passed the other day, I believe, that limits transgendered individuals according to the biology of their birth, which is proper. A person has or does not have a Y chromosome. For the purposes of sports, for the purposes of like dressing rooms and stuff, most people in the public comprehend that that's a meaningful issue and that the leftoids have overstretched. Watch, the Republicans at some point here will manage to take defeat from the jaws of victory by proposing a bill executing trans people or something like that. They're very good at that. They're very good at watching their enemies bonk themselves on the head and getting jealous and saying, oh my God, I can do that better than you. I can crush my own skull quicker than you can. Bonk, bonk, bonk. That's the Republican Party in a nutshell. But right now, in this particular instance, all we see is a leftoid going crazy, whipping themselves up into a frenzy, going from measured and saying like, look, trans people belong here and stuff, muttering it basically, slowly amping it up and slowly whirling her fists around more and more. And I'm thinking if this were a Republican talking about Jesus or something, they would be compared with Adolf Hitler because it's the same thing. Start off slow and measured and low, force people to lean in to hear you, and then slow you amp it up more and more and more, and heil, and shit like that. It's the same fucking shit that we see with this individual, with Michaela Cavanaugh. And I noticed that her epic is not being reported on much by the legacy media. I wonder why MSNBC doesn't want to cover this particular spectacular speech that she gave. I wonder. John Hoyle just wanted to point out, I think YouTube content is in a golden age right now. Somehow, despite the censorship, there's so much excellent content. There is. It's just that new blood can't be brought to your channel because they never find it. The thing is, like, you're presumptively, you've been subscribed to the channel for a while. Occasionally, you get notified that I upload, and you know that I upload every day, so you maybe manually check the channel. I can't crack through to any new viewership. Nobody can find my shit, even if you copy out and paste in verbatim. My recent uploads, even odd says, you don't see it on the first page. I am completely demoted on YouTube, which is why my subscriber count has basically been completely stable now for 6 months or thereabouts. Completely flatline. Meanwhile, I'm growing quickly on every other platform. I think I just notched, 132,000 people following on Twitter the other day. So that Manx guy, $10, no comment. Thank you very much. Sparky, Lindsey Graham is great at destroying the non-uniparty. Yeah, exactly. He's a plant. McCain had one over on him. I'm sure that he gave the dirt to someone else before he died so that they could continue controlling him. Swamp Donkey, Magnus Hirschfeld is where a lot of the tranny stuff began in Weimar, Germany, not to mention John Money of New Zealand. Well, there have always been like cross-dressers and stuff like that around. It's existed since antiquity. I just think that people should neither be denigrated nor celebrated for their own personal lifestyle choices. Don't go out of my way to insult anyone just because they're transgendered or gay or something. but I don't think that it needs to be a cultural movement. It's like I don't go out and go on the straight parade float and say, oh, I am straight. I only like vaginas and people without a Y chromosome. Because that'd be stupid. It wouldn't make any sense. And if you did do that, you would be laughed at for being cringe. Well, how the fuck is this not the same fucking shit? Ozzy's Robots this weekend in Mint in Box movie wrapped a 3-day shout featuring yours truly. My museum and fledgling empire, lol. Maybe you can shout out both our channels. Movie should debut late 2024 or 25. Hey, do you eventually, when the synopsis is done, want to take a look at it for the Timmy story and maybe finance that? I promise you it will be very, very low budget and probably bring a return, actually. Ironically, it's one of the better ideas that I've had. So Mint in Box has wrapped up a 3-day shout featuring Ozzy's Robots and his museum and fledgling very wealthy empire. See if we can do business in the future. One hand washes the other. Don't worry about it. Next news story. Andy Yang is completely certifiable with his latest post here. And he copied out a cheap PNG file from the internet. Like, this is the same blank states map that I use in, the polling analysis that I do. He literally saved that same file and probably colored it in himself. Now, the actual point that he's making technically is true. It's just that the point is fucking completely meaningless. One party runs all 3 branches of government in 75% of the country. They say it's a 2-party system, but it's actually a 1-party system for most of us. This is Yang's way of saying, please send me money for my grift party, a political party, aka please buy my shit. Most Americans don't have a meaningful choice in who is representing them. That's what Forward Party is designed to change. Yeah, Forward Party, all 10 members, they'll do a great job. See, here's the problem when I look at this map. Number one, it has no margin with regards to how big the majority is. For instance, in the state of Vermont, it's considered divided government by Andy Yang's map. That is true. The governor is a Republican. The Senate and the House are run by the Democrats. But the Senate and the House are run by a supermajority of Democrats. The governor is a unipartyist neocon, and so it doesn't really matter. It's not about partisan politics. Andy Yang wants your money on the basis that he wants to trick you into thinking that the 2-party dichotomy is a real thing. Instead of having a uniparty, which is core between the liberals and conservatives, their old core, plus populism on one end and progressivism on the other. We don't have a 2-party system in the United States. We have a 5-party system. We have the uniparty, which has no loyalty to national origin or anything like that. This is most Democrats and some Republicans. We have the populistic MAGA Republicans. We have the progressive wing of the Dems, the soft socialists. We have the hardline socialists, which are a fringe of the Dem Party plus the Green Party. And then we have the libertarian movement. There is no room for this Forward Party. You can't even elucidate exactly what you believe in other than wanting to give UBI to people. Thus, I label you a fucking commie, which you are, Andy. And you're also completely ignorant of politics and or pretending to be in order to grift towards other people and get money and support from them. By the way, as New Hampshire listed as a Republican trifecta state, yeah, Sununu is a really conservative man. He's really, really conservative. And Louisiana has a divided government. Okay, again, the Republicans run it like Kentucky. Yeah, the Republicans don't have control of the state of Kentucky. No, absolutely not. Some of the states he's right on. For example, Wyoming or California or something like that. Well, this basically begins to look like the map of federal election results now, doesn't it? People do make their choices. They also have other choices. They don't have to vote for the Republicans or the Democrats. Most Republicans I wouldn't vote for either, to tell the truth. I'm not going to join the GOP because I prefer not to be a loser. The Patriot Cairo, the idea that we give citizenship to anyone who is born on U.S. soil is lunacy. It defies common sense and is not supported by the Constitution. That particular case is still up in the air after a very, very long time. Birthright citizenship. Is it the law of the land or is it not? I don't know. 12. This commercial is in reference to a flat sales tax Desantis voted on in Congress. It was a Paul Ryan plan and it was a 20% tax. It failed already. But it's still pertinent because he supported it. Well, if you're going to trot out something that Trump said back in 1990, then shoes on the other foot, I suppose, with Desantis. Somebody should definitely confront him on it and say, hey, do you still support the Paul Ryan tax plan? Yeah, will it apply to firearms? I'm sure that all the gun owners would love a 20% sales tax on their next firearm purchase. I think that his numbers would go down some. Brother Shogo, what's with the Hawaiian shirts? You copying Gavin McInnes? I think I was wearing this kind of garb before he was, actually. It was long pre-Boogaloo when I was already wearing Hawaiian shirts because I love the 80s. It had nothing to do with politics in my case. They're comfy. You know, the ones that are actually vintage like this one are comfy. The newer ones, yeah, they're all right, but not quite as nice. I like the ones from Paradise Found, I think it was. It's a Hawaiian company that makes them. Then they've got this scammer company called Shine that's based in China that rips off the exact same designs and has been sued multiple times by some textile manufacturers. Bison American Club visiting Louisville all the week. Any clanker want to go to Walmart Superstore with me? Seriously, I need clanker tourist support. Kentucky. Yeah, so if any Louisville clankers want to go to a Walmart Superstore, you can sign right on. Long as you take them to lunch afterwards, get some chili dogs or something. Adam Gardner, man who stand on toilet is high on pot. I like that. Orwell's goon. Remember, Youngkin beat McAuliffe, not Northam. Yes, I got that wrong this morning. However, I would point out that Northam's abortion shtick did affect that election in a very, very meaningful way. McAuliffe was the CRT pusher. That hurt him a lot. Parents shouldn't have a role in students' education. Northam also mattered. And those are the reasons Youngkin won, which is why I rule him out as possible as a national candidate for the GOP election. He might get in. He might be crazy enough to. If DeSantis were to stand down, he and Chris Christie would both be 50-50 to get into the race. Robot Trucker, you will feed the almighty bunghole. I get the reference. Next news story. Debt ceiling talks break down and attacks escalate as deadline approaches. Oh my God, we're all going to die. The debt ceiling will be reached. We will be insolvent. We won't pay our debts. It'll cause a recession. Again, I would like to point out to people, the reason why this sort of fear-mongering point is made, despite the 90% chance that in the end, negotiations will go through. Biden was the only one claiming that he didn't want to negotiate originally. He backed off on that and started having talks with McCarthy as well as his own party's leadership. Amazing how he backed down like a little puppy on that the second that it became politically convenient to do so. I would like to point out something. We are probably headed for a deep recession in the United States and much of the rest of the world. It's probably unavoidable. We've had a banking crisis. We have sticky inflation. We have the Fed raising interest rates, which could cause unemployment to rise. We're looking at possibly a 2008 scenario all over again. That's the worst case scenario. I hope it doesn't happen, even for political reasons, despite the fact that it would definitely decimate Biden's approval, and that would be good for the country. Millions of people would suffer in the meantime, so I'm not willing to root for that happening. They're trying to preemptively prepare to blame it on Kevin McCarthy and the House Republicans. They're trying to, that's why none of these stories mention the fact that Joe Biden was the initial party that said he would not negotiate. None of them mention it. Now they're talking about non-negotiation, but they're framing it as the Republicans all of a sudden got the idea that they weren't willing to come to the table. Well, Joe Biden spent several fucking months not coming to the table. That is objective. This is established fact. There are multiple public quotes by Joe Biden saying he's unwilling to negotiate. He backed down. He blinked. He was willing to negotiate. And then the Republicans said, well, this is going nowhere because he's not giving us any of the negotiation leverage that we actually have. We control the fucking House. We control the budget. And so let's force the issue. Let's force Biden to either give us more of what we want, which I think is a good thing if you look at the plethora of details there, especially the non-expansion of the IRS. That's a big one for me. And if the Republicans don't include that in the final negotiation package, they are goddamn completely fucking retarded. And otherwise, Joe Biden will have to litigate the issue by invoking the Constitution and claiming that it claims that the debt ceiling has to be raised because the full faith and credit in U.S. debt holdings has to be assured. Well, the U.S., its debt and its capability of printing money and so forth is constitutionally guaranteed, will say Joe Biden. They're attempting to force him to do that. He is reluctant to do so. He will, in the end, in my opinion, beg them for more negotiations. It will give them more of what they want. And then it goes to the Dems in the Senate because the House will pass it. They have no problem passing a prospective budget. The Senate may stonewall it. You'll see Bernie Sanders and some of the other leftoids in the Senate try to stop it from happening. In the end, Joe Biden will probably end up having to suppress elements of his own far leftists in the Senate in order to get it passed. Well, that's a win for the Republicans. It's not exactly going to help Joe Biden with the leftoid voting bloc. We'll see what happens, though. Could be that the Republicans blink. They are good at doing that, you may have noticed. Dark Gary 92, iSticks declare The Legend of Zelda Twilight Princess is the greatest Legend of Zelda game ever made. Quote me on that. That was a super chat, everyone. So before you clip it out to defame me, I haven't played it. Legend of Zelda is a good franchise. I've heard good things about Twilight Princess, actually, to tell the truth. I pretty much stopped playing it after Wind Waker because I didn't like the cartoonishness of the rendering. It's like, okay, Legend of Zelda Ocarina of Time, for the time at least, for an N64 game, it was stunning visually. It was very well made. But it was primitive. Let's face it, looking back, the graphics, yeah, it's three-dimensional, but not really. It's all angular. It's like playing fucking Star Fox or something. It was good, but there was definitely room for many graphical improvements. So what did they do with the Wind Waker? They have a massive open-world game, lots of exploration. You've got the oceanic element, lots of plants, which I like in a game, by the way. And then you turn the characters into cartoon characters instead of trying to be realistic. How goddamn spectacularly helpful that was. I played Wind Waker a little bit and got bored with it, unfortunately. Anyway, I like first-person shooters at this point. Orwell's Goon, can you speak to the occult concept of the revelation of the method? I saw that vid of World Jewish Congress basically admitting, I can't, I think, say that on YouTube, admitting to certain things that you can see in the super chat that I am not going to say literally because YouTube is draconian at this point. Is it sus? I don't know. I'm probably not allowed to have an opinion on anything like that on YouTube. Maybe I'll do a Rumble exclusive. El Presidente, totally off topic, but why do I hate watch Destiny until I get full-on rage? I don't know. I ignore him. There was one time, we had agreed to a debate, actually. It was amiable. And then I heard from a third party who I trust, somebody who was a mod in his Discord server, who had communicated with him about the possibility of our debate. And the gist that I got, and I don't know if she still has the receipts with regards to this, was that he was going to try to rope-a-dope me into saying something bannable so that I could be deplatformed. Well, I don't deal with that, especially not from midgets, so he can fuck himself. I do not hate watch people. I just watch what I'm interested in. Sigil Stone, Confucius say, man who run in front of car get tired. Man who run behind car get exhausted. That's a good one. By the way, please send no more super chats. I got a couple more things to get through here, and we're almost at 50 minutes chase. Hi, Sticks. Did you see that Matt McManus talked with the distributist? Seemed like progressive positions are justified with libertarian perspectives. Thought? Well, you can't be both a progressive and a libertarian. Progressivism is of necessity an authoritarian movement because it provides more control over people's productivity. Ergo, you have more government control. Or non-state actor control, still authoritarianism, maybe not statism, same shit, different asshole. It doesn't matter whether it's a state or a federal bureau or a government, an oligarchic council or a mob controlling you. If you don't have the availability to determine what you do with your own productivity, aka money, which is exchanged for your productive labor, then you are under tyranny. Dark Gary 92. Twilight Princess was a direct result of the failure of Wind Waker. It's darker and more realistic than Wind Waker. Midna had been the best character written in the Legend of Zelda series, in my opinion. Yeah, I mean, I would try it out, but that kind of game, I don't really play it anymore. I like open world, but I want to customize everything around me. I want first person so I can shoot things, basically. I'd rather play Minecraft. Next news story, Montana's TikTok ban is all bark and little bite. I would agree with this. To be clear, Montana is planning on banning TikTok for download. It won't stand up in the courts. You may think TikTok is cringe, and I certainly do. Unhelpful, a distraction, Chinese spyware. That doesn't mean that people can be prosecuted for downloading the app, especially if they've already had the app. If anything, here's my final answer on the TikTok bans. I think it's very, very unhelpful. If you want to get rid of TikTok in usage by U.S. citizens, the way to do it is not to have the old fogies of the government come out against it and try to ban it, because then it'll be seen as cool. All of a sudden, it's sort of like weed or tobacco at this point. It's seen as rebellious and cool. Wow, I have a TikTok, man. I'm illegally posting content on the internet. Well, great way to make sure that every rebel kid goes onto the platform and it becomes the next platform. What you do is quite simple. You restart Vine. You enable YouTube Shorts. You make them better. You provide alternatives. Rumble also has a Shorts feature. You let the free market handle it. TikTok is not hegemonic. And also, it's a little bit of a boogeyman. When we talk about like TikTok is going to replace YouTube or something, you got to understand that when YouTube rose up, it was in a vacuum of a market, a massively quickly expanding market of all ages, by the way, not like TikTok. We'll explain the demographics separately. In a vacuum in which there weren't any other significant competitors for some time. Okay, there was MetaCafe. I think Vimeo existed at the time. Nobody fucking used him. Nobody uses him now. Dailymotion is a joke. I stopped using it for a reason. I'm one of the top users on the site, and I abandoned it because they were forcing me to turn off my ad blocker. No thanks. Not going to happen. YouTube did that in a vacuum. Then got gobbled up by a massively wealthy corporation that improved the site in some ways and now is slowly destroying it. But it became ubiquitous. Everyone knows YouTube. TikTok is mainly known by much of the user demographic as cringe. Younger users like it. People that are over 30 by and large consider it bullshit. YouTube didn't have this problem. YouTube was considered cool by everyone from age fucking 13 to 30,000. TikTok is not seen in the same way. It has entered a concentrated market that is likely to become more concentrated if Elon Musk restarts Vine, if more branching out is done by YouTube, Rumble, etc. Certainly in the live streaming sense, TikTok takes a backseat, which is not a problem that's held by Twitch. It's not a problem for Rumble. It's not a problem for YouTube. I don't think that TikTok is going to be a long-lasting thing. If I had to guess, I would say it's a flash in the pan. There is no more fickle demographic than teenagers. They don't be teenagers for very long. YouTube has a shit ton of users that are in their 20s, 30s, 40s, 50s, people that are under 13, which technically I don't think are supposed to be using the site. They're on YouTube Kids, but they're there. They have all the services, all the goods. They get all the syndicated shows, all the fucking music, everything. TikTok doesn't have any of these things. TikTok has people being cringe. If I had to guess, it's basically a competitor of Instagram more than anything else. So I don't really, I don't want to ban it. I don't believe in banning U.S. citizens from accessing whatever fucking apps they want. It should come with a warning, hey, this is literally commie spyware that's going to listen to everything that you do, and including when you're beating off in bed. Other than that, let him use it. Let him be cringe. And by the way, for all the Montana TikTok content creators, how many of you actually are capable of making a living on TikTok and don't know of Instagram, YouTube, Rumble, or any of these other iterations? 2 of you? It's Montana we're talking about. There's like 10 people in the whole state. How many fucking influencers can you possibly have? So when they bitch about it, I find that extremely funny. Again, please don't send any more super chats. I love the money, but come on. Ozzy's Robots, Facebook Shorts, Reels are not censored like YouTube. Oh, they're not? Please don't try to get me back on Facebook. That's a road too far for me. I'm under 50. Brother Shogo, nuance bro, sent a kid to the emergency room with facts. Interesting. And then the final news story. Jake Sullivan pressed on Syria drone strike after U.S. walks back claim it killed major al-Qaeda leader. Yeah, apparently the U.S. claimed that it had killed a senior al-Qaeda leader a while ago. And it turned out it was actually a dude that was tending his sheep. And so they're conducting an investigation. It'll cost millions of dollars, of course, to investigate. They're going to have to go out into the desert now in Syria, where we're not really welcome and technically shouldn't be operating at all at this point. And they'll look at the blood-covered bones out in the sand, and they'll try to figure out whether it was the Al-Qaeda dude or, oh, shit, it was the dude who was wanted lamb chops for dinner. We're sorry that this father of 10 got splattered on the sand dunes. By the way, that's not going to encourage any of his older children to join ISIS or Al-Qaeda or anything like that. And here's what I would say. Number one, this points to the stupid nature of the Biden stewardship. The inability to manage affairs. Pete Buttigieg, a la the ammonium nitrate going missing. constant rail problems, constant problems in transportation. A border czar, Kamala Harris, who's never visited the border. We've got a porous border. A so-called president who simply doesn't know what he's doing, Jake Sullivan, and all of the others, Blinken certainly. All of these people are completely incompetent. You claimed that you had reason to believe that you killed a senior al-Qaeda official. Well, that's wonderful. Although we don't need to be operating in Syria, well, at least the person who got the bullet deserved it in that case. Probably someone who's killed a dozen other people already anyway. But it turns out that's probably not the case. And why are we still in Syria, by the way? It's probably because the envoy to Syria illegally lied to Donald Trump about troop totals there in order to keep the presence up. So there wouldn't be as much pressure on the subsequent Hong Kong totally legitimate administration when trying to explain to the American people why years and years and fucking years later, when most of Syria now has calmed down on the civil war side, why the fuck are we still there? What are we accomplishing? It makes no sense. That means that they want money. They want money and power and probably want a terrorist attack. They wouldn't have liked it if they had killed a senior al-Qaeda operative. Half of them are probably on the CIA payroll by now. So anyway, I'm going to go offline at this time. I've got stuff that I've got to do. Oh, Cobretti123, 17-year-old assaulted by rainbow shirts and BLM outside school. Hands out Bibles. They proceed to burn them. And he posts a Rumble link over on Rumble. Cobretti123. Yeah. That's that's no good, getting assaulted. I don't care if people burn scripture works. I do notice that there are very few Quran burnings that go on, though, at these gatherings. I've noticed there's a little bit of a differentiation between which scriptures. Nobody burns the Talmud. Nobody's burning the Zohar or something like that. Bible, meanwhile, it's fair game. Yeah, Bible barbecue, a great time. It used to be edgy back in by the way, the early days of content creation on YouTube. I thought about having a video called Bible barbecue just to piss people off and roast some like hamburgers or weenies or something on burning Bibles. Never got around to it at the time. And but now it'd be cliche. It wouldn't antagonize anyone. It would just be like, okay, join the club. Meanwhile, you have to have the Quran cook-off, I suppose, now in order to wow anyone. It's getting harder and harder to troll people and hurt their feelings, and it makes me sad. Anyway, yeah, I'm going to go offline now and prep for tomorrow's live stream. Lower energy than today, probably, because I have to do the driver's shit in the morning, and I don't really enjoy it. I prefer to just walk. Walking is fun. You get exercise and shit. Also, it's free as opposed to buying gas for your car. That's about all. Peace out.